AIC Hospital. I will give the guests later a chance to introduce themselves broadly. The third guest is called Ambika Shivashan. She's a clinical psychologist with her own organization called Let Life Flow. So Mercy will delve into drug and substance abuse, and Ambika will delve into mental health awareness. So before we start off, I would really wish that there's some house rules to put on. All participants needs to be on mute so that we don't end up hearing lots of echoes. Okay, so without further ado, I would wish to invite Mercy to begin with breaking the ice. The theme is my health, my choice. So I would really wish for her to delve into this topic clearly. Hi, Mercy. Can you hear me?
Hi, I can hear you.
You're welcome. Now take the baton.
Okay. Thank you so much, Anthony. I'm glad to be part of this hangout this afternoon. As you've said, my name is Mercy Okova. I am a medical officer intern at Kijabe Hospital, that is in Kenya. Yeah, so today's topic, as they've said, is my health, my choice. And I think it's very catchy, and we as young people should take charge of our health. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you. Mercy, are you there? Hello.
Hello.
I can
Right
hear you.
now,
Can you
I
hear
think
me?
you want to put me on mute. Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, good.
Okay, yeah. So I was saying, as I've said, I'm Mercy, a medical officer intern in Kijabe, and today's topic is about my health, my choice, and specifically, I'll be tackling drug abuse among youth.
Okay.
And it's quite a huge topic. We can't tackle everything, but we can just share the important things. And I hope it will be a very enjoyable session with very good impact among young people who have, I hope they've also joined right now. Yeah.
You're welcome, Mercy. Go on. Yeah, I believe most have joined. You're welcome.
Okay, fine. So should I proceed or just briefly an introduction? I just wanted to know. Anthony?
Yes, I think you can go on, and then Ambika will introduce herself when she begins also her part of the mental awareness. So go on,
Okay,
please.
so I can just proceed with my presentation.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Thank you. I had a PowerPoint, but I've just been having difficulty in sharing it.
Okay.
I'm using my phone.
Okay.
So
Don't
I don't
worry.
know.
We make do with what we have.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So briefly, among young people, we have been culprits for drug abuse. Okay, currently, in the medical word, we say substance use, and when it gets out of hand, we call it substance use disorder. So I'll just briefly explain what influences young people to go into drug abuse. So as you've said, just some definition, drug abuse is when you use a certain drug to, okay, let me say what it was not meant for, and some of them are illicit drugs with very poor effects on health. So young people, what draws many young people to use drugs? There are two major reasons. One is for excitement, or rather to relax or to experiment. And number two, which is quite sad, is to cope with stress and even elevate depressed mood. So the question comes, how do we spend our free time? Yeah, so those two reasons as to why many people abuse drugs. So for example, in Kenya, there are drugs that are commonly abused, and I'll just name the main four ones, but there are a variety of drugs. There's a way you can classify, but I won't go into that. But the common drugs that young people abuse, we have tobacco, we also have alcohol, we also have cannabis, and we also have inhalants. So, for example, I know I'm speaking to people who are in high school, some are in university, and some are young professionals. And I've had many people talking about, especially cannabis, especially in universities, or bang. You'll hear, or weed, commonly we call it weed. You'll hear people commonly saying, oh, weed doesn't have a lot of effects on your, weed doesn't have a lot of effects on your health. And so what happens, many young people will tend to abuse cannabis commonly. So that is what affects young people, thinking that these drugs don't have really a lot of effect. So I'll just go back again to what I was saying, the two reasons why many people abuse drugs. And number one was excitement, to relax, to try something new. And that one happens commonly, for example, in high schools and colleges. And then the other reason that cuts across, whether you're in school or not in school, that is when you use drugs to cope with stress. I think the clinical psychologists will talk more about depression and mental health. But one thing that we realize, many people sink deep into drug addiction because of they're using it to cope with stress. So I'll just also run you through on the pathways that gets people to drug abuse. So among so those the pathways that really take people into drug abuse include, I'll start with initiation of use. There's always the first time that someone will use drugs. So the first time that someone will experiment, you'll not be born taking, or you'll not come out of your mother's womb smoking weed or smoking cigarettes. Probably you might be exposed by opioids if maybe your parent was taking some cocaine or something that affected you, but mainly you'll be born without using those drugs. So there's always the first time that you'll attempt. Either attempt out of excitement or curiosity. They just want to know what is this. And then with time, after they use, the second stage that we call escalation. So in the escalation stage is when, oh, I tested this, what tobacco does to me. This is how I feel when I take this drug. So you escalate. So probably you'll continue taking that drug based on the effects that you found with the drug. For example, when I took alcohol, I felt high, I felt happy. Or when I smoked weed, I was over the moon. Some people will say, I feel like I'm walking on the stars. You feel above yourself. For them, it's such a very exciting feeling. And so you'll escalate. So based on the two reasons, probably escalate to continue, or now you found maybe a solution to what you had, for example, coping with stress or depression. So that's the second stage on the pathway to substance use. So on the third thing, after you escalate, the third thing that you'll find is now you maintain. For example, you continue using that drug for the reason that you've now taken them, either to relax, cope with stress. And then after that, you move to the fourth stage of use, and that's addiction. So here you have no control. Am I audible?
You're audible. I can hear you.
Okay, you have no control over that drug. For example, you'll find someone with, for example, alcohol use disorder right now. They can't start their day without having alcohol. They call it an eye opener. Or if they don't take alcohol, they get very severe tremors. They can't do, you can't survive without it. Like if you stay without taking it, maybe so for some few days, you get bad effect on your health system, is now physical manifestation. So it has reached a point of addiction. So you can look at addiction in terms of what physical effect it does on you. You can also look at addiction in the sense that you do outrageous things to find those drugs. For example, you see people selling their items, you see some of them stealing money, you see some of them using lies or weird means to get the drugs. So you've reached to a point anything that drug. Yeah, now that's addiction. But that doesn't happen to everyone. That pathway, those 4 stages that I've given you, from initiation
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
escalation, maintenance, and addiction. For some
Mhm.
people, will initiate and then like, oh, I don't like the way this thing feels, and probably just experiment and stop. For other people, they'll escalate and use it for some time. And then for some people, they will get into an addiction and then stop again. But for the most people, once you're already addicted, you have seasons of stopping and then you get back. So that's somehow the pathway to how I would explain how drugs have an effect to us.
Mhm.
So I don't to sound as if I'm condemning people, because sometimes alcohol, that doesn't mean people shouldn't take alcohol, but everything should be done with moderation.
Yeah.
But to that point when someone can't misses work because of alcohol, and it happens even with young professionals, someone misses work because of they are binge drinking, they got late, doesn't meet deadlines and timelines. Now already addiction is causing big trouble. You might lose your job, you not have good output.
Mhm.
For those who are in colleges, most people, actually there are many people who don't graduate from colleges, you'll find those substance use disorder, I mean the addiction, and you're not able to complete your degree or your diplomas or certificates or whatever level you're training at. If you're in high school, again the same thing. Some people might finish maybe from 4, or you may even drop out. So these are some of the effects that occur in that
Mhm.
pathway. Yeah,
Mhm.
so to explain further on the effects, I'll classify them into, we have physical, we have social, and also we have economical effects.
Mhm.
So, and then mental effects, I'll just mention briefly, but I think the clinical psychologists will do more justice on that area. So,
Yes.
among the physical effects of drug abuse, for example, I'll start with alcohol. Alcohol affects almost every organ. I'm saying almost because not every organ, but almost every system. From the medical standpoint, for example, your brain, especially as a young person, when you start overusing alcohol, it even decreases your concentration, decreases your capacity to retain information. That's why it's not unusual for someone who has an alcohol use disorder not being able to do well in the exams, because you're not able to retain a lot. And then in the long run, it causes your brain to shrink, what we call brain atrophy. So
Mhm.
later on, it may not be evident when you are young, but it can happen even when you're old. So that is one thing. When you look at another drug, for example, tobacco, cigarette smoking. Cigarette is another thing. When you're starting, it may seem fun, but it affects, again, literally every system. For example, medically speaking, someone, for example, a young person gets involved in a road accident and you get a wound somewhere. You see,
Mhm.
for you to occur, there are
Mhm.
some things that need to be in place. For example, with smoking, it will affect the healing. So I don't go into the details of medicine, how it does, but
Yeah.
one thing, smoking will reduce your blood supply. You take longer to heal. So you see, it has like things that you would have avoided in your life. So that's why for me, I've been very keen in advocating for healthy lifestyles, which include cessation of smoking, because smoking is one thing. To me, this is my personal opinion. I don't think people should smoke cigarettes because it's very painful, especially when we see uh, lung disease, like for example, what we call bronchitis,
Mhm.
infection of the, let me just say, the lung system, and also you have lung cancer and even predisposition to many other cancers in the body. Yeah, so you see, smoking will slow down your healing process in the event you get sick. It will also put you at risk for lung cancers and other infections of the chest. So that's something that we assume. We may not
Mhm.
see it early, but probably after 10 years of probably smoking 10, I mean, one pack in a day, you'll be
Mhm.
able to see the effects in a young person. And I don't want to sound, I'll just give you about let me just say what you can do. In fact, someone who stops smoking, even for a week, already there are benefits. For example, you don't have, you're not again predisposed to these infections. Like your system sort of heals, because smoke
Mm,
is like just burning your body
mm,
slowly. But immediately you remove that risk factor that is smoking, you sort of get to improve even faster. Yeah, issues of having a congested chest, within a month, you just feel you're opening up. But the
mm,
problem
mm,
with my interaction with many people who smoke, smoking is one of, especially tobacco, is one of the hardest things to stop. And I know it's a real struggle. Many have even written down that I'm going to stop, but it's usually very hard to stop smoking. But one thing, time to time, when you just have decided the will to stop, and I think, and you pursue it, you'll be able to manage. For alcohol, someone can abuse alcohol, and once they decide to stop, somehow it can be easy, they can stop, unless conditions that predispose them to go back are still there. But it's usually a bit easier to stop using, I mean, to stop having addiction to alcohol. Then
yeah.
there's this other one, weed, cannabis. So
Mm,
cannabis is something that is really abused among university students, and even
mhm,
some researchers have shown even young professionals,
okay.
because they feel it doesn't have a lot of effect. That is a lie. Probably it's also,
Okay.
it might be true, because initially you may
Mm,
not see effects, but there's something with cannabis use disorder that later someone can have what we call psychosis. It's like as if you've gone mad in a way.
mhm,
So
mhm,
it comes sometimes later,
okay.
but sadly for some people it can even be soon. So weed can seem a very drug that is not lethal, but initially it's lethal. It
Mhm,
even affects your concentration. Even when I was in school, people who
mhm,
would abuse cannabis,
yeah.
when you come to exams, when you're high, I tell you, there's nothing you will score. Even the things that you've
Okay.
read in the short-term memory will all disappear.
Mm,
So slowly by slowly, just to understand that
good,
it may
Mercy.
seem benign.
I would stop you,
Okay.
just break a bit. I was
Yeah.
realizing that we still have this physical,
Yeah.
social, economic, and mental. I know
Oh.
I
Mm-hmm.
skipped a bit of what I should have introduced, and that is
Yeah.
the agenda. I'm
Mm.
sorry,
Mm.
presentation
Okay.
had to
Fine.
take a certain
Mm.
limited time, but don't
Sure.
worry, you still
Mm.
have let's say 10 minutes, and which is okay.
Okay.
Don't start
Yeah.
because we have. Let me just say that we're gonna have
Mm-hmm.
presentation right now from Mercy, and then the next would be Ambika. And I apologize for that, I omitted that. Then we'll
Okay.
have another session from 10 minutes to 4 to 5, which will be question and answer. So at that point, we can delve more into cannabis this if questions come. And then
Okay.
there will be an open discussion a while
Mm-hmm.
later. And then we'll
Mm-hmm.
have, I'll just keep breaking it down. But just, yeah, just go through
Okay.
briefly the next topics.
I proceed.
You continue with the negative effects,
Yeah.
like the
Negative.
physical, social, economic, and mental.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So the physical that I just given in general is what we have. Okay, let me just refresh. So
Mm,
the physical, you I talked about how tobacco affects your healing process.
mhm,
I'd also talked about how alcohol can cause brain atrophy and affects very many organs. You've had a liver disease, what we call liver cirrhosis, I thought
mhm,
mentioned.
mhm,
Yeah, and then also it puts you at risk of also some other cancers as well. Yeah, so then I talked about cannabis, and then mentioned briefly
mhm.
about what else? Inhalants. So
Yeah.
inhalants mostly people who are culprit, I would say those who live in the streets. You've seen them sniffing glue.
Yeah.
It also makes them keep high. And for
Mhm,
them, I think the reason is not for relaxing or excitement, it's
mhm,
for coping with stress, because being in the street is not ideal. Probably they don't have, most of them don't have a home. Most of them, they don't have care from maybe their parents or guardians. And also there's no enough food. So it's also a way to cope with what they're going through. Yeah, so the effect that it has on this, when you're actually, when these children are high, most of them get out of hand. And besides having effects on themselves, also on the people around, you see them attacking people on the roads, getting into
mhm,
violent activities. So socially, it becomes like a menace to the society. But what we forget,
Mm.
it's just that they're not having the basic needs that they have. So that is a way to try get out of their trouble and just be above their issues. But it has an effect on how people live with them.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay. So probably you wanted to introduce other people, as then we continue later.
Yeah, okay, it's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, as we go on, Ambika, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes,
Yeah,
Anthony.
the floor is yours. I would really wish to say that Ambika is going to talk about mental health, and we will try to. We know that right now we're in very unprecedented times, and Corona is at the backdrop of all this discussion. We are back home, and that's why we are engaging in a webinar. So I'd want Ambika to break down the relation or how it's related to drug abuse, how mental health awareness is quite closely knitted to substance abuse. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Anthony, for that introduction. I'm very excited to be talking to you all this afternoon because mental health is a crucial component of our everyday functioning. Yeah. So I'm excited about this. So let's get started, and I'm going to share my screen with you.
Yes, do that.
Okay. All right. So this is such an amazing phrase, I can say.
Yes.
My health, my choice. Yeah, it just gives all of us the choice. We are free to choose whatever we want to do, and here we are today to enable you to make that choice. Yeah, if you think it's a wise choice to make when it comes to prioritizing your needs, if you think, yes, I need to do these things, then I think we are in a good place. Yeah,
Mhm,
so we are here to enabling you to do that.
mhm.
And I'm sorry, did I forget to introduce myself?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I'm so sorry about that.
No problem.
My name is Ambika, and my other name is Shivashanmugam, but Ambika is fine. And I'm a clinical psychologist, and I'm passionate about mental health care delivery. Yeah,
Mhm,
my dream is that mental health care services become accessible to everybody. Yeah, that's about me in brief.
mhm.
And is it okay to go ahead?
Definitely.
All right, thank you. So, what is it like to be a youth? Yeah, and I find this definition so very appropriate. And this is by Arnett, and he's a psychologist as well. And he defines this particular lifespan as as a period of life in which nothing is normative
Mhm,
demographically. Yeah. So, some of the words that come to me when I read this are, you know, the vibrance, yeah, the diversity, the complexity, the intricacies of being an emerging adult. Yeah. So there is so much happening when one is in this emerging adulthood phase. That's from 18 years to about 20, 29 years. There's so much self-exploration going on. There is so much of identity, sense of formation of identity. So it's as it's a very complex phase, I can say. And when there is complexity, the challenges are many. Yeah, and definitely when we are experiencing so many changes in our life, the chances are that it impacts the mental health in some way. And I would want to kind of facilitate that discussion today.
mhm, mhm,
So this is something that explains the emerging adulthood crisis, I can say, very nicely. And this is actually an excerpt by a young lady called Kristen, and she says, when our mothers were our age, they were engaged. They at least had some idea what they were going to do with their lives. I, on the other hand, will have a dual degree in majors that are ambiguous at best and impractical at worst: English and political science. No ring on my finger and no idea who I am, much less what I want to do. Yeah. I will admit that this is a pretty exciting time. Sometimes when I look out across the wide expanse that is my future, I can see beyond the wide. I realize that having nothing ahead to count on means I now have to count on myself. That having no direction means forging one for my own. Yeah, this actually explains so nicely the crisis that we all go through when we are in the emerging adulthood phase. But then it brings a lot of hope. Yeah, at the end of this crisis, we are going to come out as individuals who have a solid sense of identity. We know what we want from life, where we stand, what are our values, what are our aspirations. Yeah, so that kind of turbulence is actually necessary before we go on to, establishing this solid sense of self-concept. Yeah. So I would like to call the audience today emerging adults. Yeah, maybe some of us are outliers, but then you're still an emerging adult. Yeah, and when we talk about mental health, there are some factors which are good. Yeah, it actually protects us in some way, and I would want to quickly take you through those. Yeah, firstly, it's
Sorry about that.
supportive environments in the family, at school, and wider communities. Yeah, because we are all interactional beings. We want that kind of sense of support. We want that sense of belongingness. Yeah. So if the environments that we live in are supportive, that's thumbs up for mental health. And if you're getting adequate sleep, if you're getting enough physical activity, if you're eating right, if you have problem solving skills and interpersonal skills. Yeah, and interpersonal skills are very crucial right now. Yeah, we need to know how to interact with others. And another very central, a crucial piece to mental health is emotional regulation. And one of the important challenges during emerging adulthood is, how do I go about regulating my emotions? Yeah, and if one knows how to be doing it, with a fair amount of uh, judgment and decision making, then these all become very protective. Yeah. Having said that, we go on to looking at what are the risk factors. We've looked at what's protective. Now we need to know what increases the risk for mental health disorders or conditions. The sense of identity confusion. Who am I? Yeah, it can be when it comes to career, education, it can be sexual identity. So there's a lot going on during that phase. Yeah. So if one does not get a sense of resolution when it comes to this identity, then it actually is a risk factor for mental health conditions. Yeah. And peer pressure, we all want to fit in when we are in that age, in that span of our lives. Yeah, we all want to belong. We don't want to be the odd man out. So there is a lot of peer pressure, and that takes us back to Dr. Mercy's discussion on substance use and all that. Yeah. And then we are also living in incredibly technological times. Yeah. So increased access to and use of technology, that's a risk factor. And violence, yeah, there's violence in the media. There are messages that actively engage or encourage violence. So pro-violence messages from media, from what's happening around. So this again is a risk factor. And socioeconomic factors, if one is deprived of financial resources, or if there's not adequate support, then again that's a red flag. And adverse home environment, conflict, family conflicts. And if a young adult or an emerging adult is not given that kind of sense of it is safe for you, then again it's a risk factor for mental health conditions and risk-taking tendencies. This again it takes us back to substance use. Yeah, so the risk-taking tendencies is high in this age group, not because you choose to, simply because the front part of the brain, which is called the prefrontal cortex, is still developing. Yeah, so when it is still developing, we don't have the adequate decision-making capacities. And that is again a risk factor. And that has got nothing to do with what you are. Yeah, it's a developmental phase. And having looked at the risk factors and protective factors, I would like to touch upon what are some of the common or frequent mental health conditions. And this is true even now when we look at the current pandemic situation. Yeah, these disorders are common. So whether or not there is COVID-19, these are some of the common disorders that affects the emerging adulthood phase. Yeah, so I want you all to become cognizant about what are some of the symptoms. Yeah, and also not just to identify that in yourselves, maybe in your circles of influence. Yeah, becoming mini mental health advocates. So emotional disorders, because we mentioned emotional regulation is something that emerging adults struggle with. And then again, eating disorders, this is again closely linked to sense of self, body image. How do I see myself? How do I let others see myself? Yeah. So such questions lead to eating disorders. And schizophrenia, again, schizophrenia typically begins during the adolescence or uh, around the teenage years. So I would want everybody to be aware about what are some of the symptoms that actually tell us that it could probably be schizophrenia. And again, another important mental health concern when it comes to this emerging adulthood group is suicide and self-harm. Yeah, and as societies, as communities, we are very concerned about suicide, because in a way it also lets us know that we have failed as a community whenever we allow somebody to kill themselves. Yeah, so it's a growing concern, and it's a very I can say immediate concern we as mental health communities need to address. And risk-taking behaviors, this can be substance abuse, this can be risky sexual behaviors, it can be breaking laws. All of these come into risk-taking behaviors, and this is again fairly common in the emerging adults group. So I would want you all to kind of become aware of what are some of the symptoms. What do I need to do if I experience these symptoms in myself or in my loved ones or my friends or in the wider community? So signs of depression, how do you know you are depressed or somebody else is depressed? A hallmark or classic sign of depression is a lack of interest in pleasurable activities that one actually enjoyed before. Yeah. So let's say you have a friend and he loved playing football. And then you don't see him anymore playing football, and you ask him what happened. And he says, you know what, I don't think anything is going to make me happy. I've just given up. So that kind of loss of interest in pleasurable activities and significant weight loss or gain. If you think you have lost your appetite, or if you're overeating, or there have been fluctuations in body weight, which we say should not be more than 5% of your basal weight. And also insomnia or excessive sleeping. Insomnia is if you don't get adequate sleep, and the other end of the spectrum is excessive sleeping. These again are flags that you need to reach out for help. And lack of energy, you feel fatigued, you don't have that motivation to do things, you are struggling to concentrate. Again, these are some of the signs of depression. Feelings of worthlessness or excessive guilt. Yeah, and this is so much interlinked with suicidality when it comes to suicidal thoughts because of depression.
Mhm.
So no matter what, I'm not going to feel better. No matter what, my life is not going to get better. Yeah. And oftentimes there is this misconception that if somebody is talking about suicide, they're probably seeking attention, or they want to kind of, draw attention to themselves. And that is so not true at all, I would say, because they are already in the sense of helplessness or hopelessness. So
Mhm.
even if you go ahead and give them that attention, they're telling themselves that it's not going to make them better. Yeah. So it's not a cry for attention.
Mhm.
I want you all to become, you know, oh God, if somebody is talking about suicide, I think I need to hold their hand and take them to the next step. And that is professional help.
Mhm.
Yeah. And again, recurrent thoughts of suicide or death. I want to die. I don't want to live anymore. I don't think anybody's going to miss me after I die. So if you experience such thoughts or somebody else, it's not about blaming or labeling or
Mhm.
stigmatizing. It's about just knowing these other things that can be helped. Yeah. And depression is a very treatable condition. And another common emotional disorder that affects emerging adults is anxiety. Yeah, we all feel anxious from time to time, and it's a very human response. Yeah, if we don't feel anxious, then probably something is not okay. But then the line is it's persistent, it's pervasive. You feel anxious all the time. Yeah, and it's overwhelming you, it's bogging you down. That's a sign that you need professional help. And excessive worry about a number of concerns such as health problems or finances, and a general sense that something bad is going to happen. Yeah, so you have racing thoughts. So you sit down and you want to finish a task, and then there's something that comes up, and you start worrying about your health, maybe your family, maybe what am I going to do next? What if I don't finish this report? You know, it's you have racing thoughts. So that's again a red flag that you need probably a little more assistance. Yeah. And restlessness or irritability. So if there is something that often or if previously did not bother you, so let's say you're working and then maybe your child comes in and drops a book, and then there is this noise, you know, and it's a bearable noise, I can say. But then you're irritable, and then you kind of uh, say you lose your temper, and then you have an outburst, and you have tantrums. So these again are signs that you're maybe irritable, and it's a sign of anxiety.
Mhm.
And difficulty concentrating, sleep problems, or having this feeling that, you know, I'm not okay, I'm feeling very nervous, very anxious, or very overwhelmed. So these are again some things that you need to be aware of when it comes to anxiety.
Mhm.
And then eating disorders, it's because we value the way we look. Yeah, and that's very incredibly important. Not, yeah, I can say all throughout our lives, but then in this particular age group, it becomes very, very important. How do I, how do others view me when it comes to my body? Yeah, how am I good looking? And for females, it can be am I beautiful? Yeah, am I admirable? And so there is a lot of importance given around to body image. And then there is this sense of fluctuating self-esteem. Maybe I'm not good enough. Yeah, and I think I'm not capable of forming a relationship, or I'm not capable of maintaining a relationship. Yeah, relationship again is a major concern in this age group. Now, forming relationships, maintaining relationships, or other problems around relationships. Yeah. And it can actually manifest as anorexia nervosa, which we say if somebody has aversion towards eating. Yeah, or even if they do eat, they have self-induced, you know, vomiting, or expulsion of food. And then on the other end of the spectrum is binge eating, or eating a little bit more than usual. And again, these things are directly related to self-esteem and sense of self. And also it is interlinked with emotional disorders like depression, anxiety, and substance use. And like I mentioned, schizophrenia typically has its onset in the teenage years. So if somebody is experiencing hallucinations or delusions, yeah, so quickly to tell you what are these hallucinations. Let's say if somebody is saying, I can see somebody there, a lady who's trying to talk to me, that's visual. Yeah, there's no lady who's trying to talk to you. Or delusions, some of them say, I can feel that there are insects all over my body. Yeah, and in reality there are no insects on their body. So these are hallucinations and delusions, that is false beliefs, I can say. And it necessarily does not mean they are schizophrenic. It needs more detailed uh, you know diagnostic tests. But then these are some things that you can actually be aware of, yeah, because this is an awareness session. And schizophrenia can interfere very, very significantly with day-to-day activities, and also stigma is a main concern when it comes to mental health. Yeah, we are not so open when it comes to talking about it or providing that care to others when they are going through mental health. So again, destigmatization is very important, and I want you all to kind of do something that's possible in your own small way to break the stigma when it comes to mental health. And suicidality, this is something that I really wanted to discuss with you all, because the suicide can always be prevented if there is support. Yeah, and even if it's you extending support towards your community, it's great. Yeah, so if somebody is talking to you about dying or harming oneself, that's a sure enough red flag that you need to do something about it. Yeah, also, what are the risk factors if they've lost their loved one through death, divorce, separation, and also, like we mentioned, loss of interest in pleasurable activities. Changes in personality, like pervasive sense of sadness. Yeah, so they're sad all the time, no matter what the external situation is like. Yeah, withdrawal, irritability, anxiety, these are some of the things. And changes in behavior, sleep patterns, and eating habits. Erratic behavior, like harming oneself, self-harm, like if you see somebody taking a blade or knife and hurting themselves, not necessarily to kill, but just to harm themselves. That again is a red flag. Yeah, and low self-esteem, including feelings of worthlessness, helplessness, self-hatred, guilt, and again, no hope for future, believing that things will never get better, or things will never change. So, some of us, or most of us, have been in some of these states. Yeah, but then what differentiates is the amount of sadness or amount of hopelessness. If it's pervasive, if it is there all the time, yeah, that's what makes a distinction. And even if you are doubtful, okay, I'm feeling worthless or I'm feeling hopeless, what do I do? The best thing is reach out to professional help, and they will tell you whether it's moderate, is it very intense, is it mild. Yeah, so don't suffer alone, please do reach out and help yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, and risk-taking behaviors, this is another important concern. I like substance use, like Dr. Mercy explained to us, risky sexual behavior, perpetration of violence, interpersonal violence, all this actually tends to be very high in this age group. And it's not like, you are responsible for it. Yeah, I would want to say that you're just struggling to make sense of your inner world. Yeah, and it's okay for you to falter in some of these things, or it's okay if you're struggling with some of these things. I would want you to just take the next best step. Yeah, I want you to make that next best choice. I want you to decide what is it that I want to do from here. Yeah? And if your answer is, I want to be healthy, I want to achieve my potential, I have some values and I have some aspirations for myself. And that means you need to take care of yourself. And what can you do to take care of yourself? Get help. Yeah. And okay, now having said this, there are a lot more other mental health conditions that can affect us. Yeah. And I want to give you two tools that will actually tell you that something is not okay. Yeah, I want you to and this wisdom is already in you. Nobody needs to give you this wisdom. So there are two layers to it. One is emotional intelligence, and the second one is body intelligence. So what is emotional intelligence? Just acknowledging that I'm feeling sad, acknowledging I'm feeling anxious right now, acknowledging I'm feeling hopeless. Yeah. So how do you know that? I want you to get comfortable with your emotions. I want you to acknowledge, embrace how you're feeling in this current moment. So if I ask Anthony, how are you feeling right now? What are some of your words, emotion words, Anthony, please, if you can help us?
I would admit that I'm a bit tense, that I'm a moderator for this, and it has to go well. I would say I'm happy that I was given this opportunity to be a moderator. That's two things maybe that come to my mind.
Thank you so much for such a brilliant response. He's admitting that he's anxious, a bit anxious, that he's being a moderator right now. And that makes him vulnerable, and that makes him courageous, that makes him beautiful. Yeah. And also he's saying, I'm happy to be, amongst youth today. Yeah. Again, that's a very genuine emotion. So if Anthony did not acknowledge that he's anxious, he's going to show up later, maybe in much bigger form. Yeah. So I want you to become, more gentle with yourself, more compassionate with yourself, and let your emotions. Yeah. And if you're anxious, then it's telling you that there's something in your life that's not okay. So if I ask somebody, why are you anxious? And if they tell me, I'm worried if I would lose my job, I would end up jobless. Yeah. So that's telling something beautiful about them. That is telling us that he or she cares for herself and maybe for her family, and is worried that if he or she ends up being jobless, family is going to be deprived in some way. Yeah. So become more emotionally intelligent and body intelligence all the way through this discussion. You would have noticed that sleep, getting good sleep, eating right, physical activity, all these are very important. And if your body halts for some reason and says there's back pain that you need to address, or muscle tension that you need to address, that means it's actually giving you out signals that you need to tune into, so that you become well, you take yourself on the road of wellness. Yeah. So these are very rich sources of information, I can say. And I want you to tune into this. And I encourage you all to go read more about it, because this discussion is just going to be for maybe another 5 minutes. And so I want you to go ahead and read about emotional intelligence, about body wisdom. Yeah. And get help at the right time. Yeah, this is very, very crucial. Again, identify early. Yeah. How do I identify early? With the help of emotions, with the help of what's happening in your body. And then seek mental health services. It's okay to get help. Yeah. There's a cultural context to it. Maybe you were taught it's not okay if you come across as a weak person. Yeah. It's not okay if you have to receive. You have to be the giver all the time. Mm-hmm. So all these cultural underpinnings to it makes it hard for us to reach out and say, you know what, I'm struggling right now. I need help. I'm vulnerable right now. I need help. Yeah. These are some of the obstacles culturally, but then I want you to know that only when you can receive, you will have a turn to give. Yeah. So it's okay to receive or it's okay to give. Both ways, you're beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you don't have to do it all by yourself. Yeah. You're never meant to. We are all social beings. We have to connect with somebody in some way to derive meaning. Yeah. So you're not wired or you're not designed by nature to doing it all by yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah. So please go ahead and get connected, get help, and do the next right thing. Yeah.
Yes.
And my favorite quote by Dr. Brené Brown, and that's the end of my part of discussion. We don't have to do all of it alone. We were never meant to. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. So please go ahead and get that help. And you are beautiful. You are all, I can say, and in no
Yes.
way are you broken. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ambika. That is I can feel the advice comes from deep within. I can feel that you're passionate about this. You're passionate about our youth, and it's really interesting that I've gone through the comments a bit. I've written some down, and the next session is question and answer. We're just a bit late. We've just gone over by 6 minutes. Presentation had to end at 3:50. It's now 3:56, but it's good enough. We delve now into the question and answer, and I would wish to go through what I wrote down a bit, and I'd want Mercy to be the first one to react to this. And then after that, it will be an open, not completely open, but I would welcome questions so that we can pose it to Mercy or Ambika. I would want Mercy, can you hear me, Mercy?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I would want you to. I realized I stopped you somewhere, and you really wanted to go deeper into things. There's a question that Purity Ngang wrote,
Yeah.
maybe from your comments. She asks,
Mhm.
"Does alcohol lead to brain shrinkage?" This is you can delve into a bit more, and then you can complete the negative effects of substance abuse. I realize I cut you short on that
Okay.
physical, social, economic, and mental. Now
Mhm.
you can also, now after Ambika's presentation, maybe you bring in the mental effects of substance abuse.
Okay, fine. So the question that one of us has asked about if alcohol brings brain shrinkage. So medically, the term for that we call brain atrophy. So brain atrophy means the brain becoming smaller over time. So it's something that is progressive. So what alcohol does, it damages our brain cells, what we call neurons, over
Mhm.
time. So when you have damage of cells, into cell death, and then later on there's now the shrinking of the brain, becoming atrophied. So for example, for one way to tell that, probably later on someone can have, let me say clinically, what can that, it can affect your intelligence, for example, in terms on what you can be able to master, because for us to remember things is the brain that helps us to store that information.
Mhm.
Then clinically, what we can also look, what we call imaging, we can do something like a CT scan later in life. It shows the brain becoming smaller in the space. So that comes after chronic use of alcohol and using alcohol out of moderation, because there is amount of alcohol that someone is allowed to take. For example, for a woman is 14 units in a week, and for a man is 21 units. Okay, that one still sounds complex. So
Yes.
uh, to bring it, there's a way you calculate. I don't know how, probably I need to calm down, like how there's a certain quantity that if you exceed, it has an effect in your alcohol. Probably I can ask Ambika to explain further in terms of the units because they deal with them further. But what I'm just trying to drive the point home is excessive use of alcohol is what will cause that brain atrophy. But if you use alcohol in moderation,
Mhm.
yeah, probably it won't lead to that. So I think that's the point that should go home. I also don't want to cause someone to get scared, but I
Mhm.
just want to bring the point that excessive use of alcohol is what can cause that in long term.
Mhm.
Probably I wanted to share, it's just, okay. there's no need. Let me not use my PowerPoint. I wanted to share the screen as well, but I'm not able to get it
No
here.
problem. Mm.
Yes. So was to talk about the effects of alcohol. I mean, drugs in general, physical, social, and economic. I had mentioned some, so I don't want to repeat all over again. I mean to repeat, but I'll just mention probably what I didn't say. So among the social effects that what drug abuse can do to young people, number one, if you talk, remember those who are in school, you can drop out or not being able to achieve your targets. Young professionals, for example, you miss work, not able to meet your targets that I said. You can also find yourself involved in criminal activities. For example, when you are high after using drugs, it's something that happens to our brain. A part of our brain we call the frontal lobe that is in charge of making what decisions. So drugs can affect that, and you're not able to make correct decisions. That's why you'll find young people fighting and over things that probably would have been done in a better way. And then that fighting again will also lead you to physical effects. For example, someone coming with bruises, wounds, or even cuts as a regard of fighting because you're out of your mind and just did things to hurt one another. Then we have economic effects. This you see mostly with young people again. For example, those who are in campus, probably a parent or a guardian gives you a certain amount of money because probably, let's say, for example, 5,000 shillings was enough for you maybe for a month, probably. But you will increase demand because you're consuming more substance, things that were not part, they're not your basic needs. So you'll end up either demanding for more money. So already as a young person, you're not able to manage your finances early, and it might strain people who are taking care of you, especially if you're still relying on people sending money, or probably if they don't are not able to meet your needs, it would mean stealing. It would mean probably selling your property. That's why you see a young man in campus who sold the laptop, sold the phone, just to create ways for taking money. So this is something that started. If it continues in life, it affects relationship. It affects, for example, marriages in future. It affects how you handle things because right from when you're a young person, you're not able to manage your finances well. But I would say it's not all lost. The way
Yeah.
Ambika said, there is always something that can be done, including what we're having in this meeting. So just to sum up, I want to ask us, what do we do with our free time when we are not in class, when we are not at work, or when we have some little, I know now COVID-19 has made people to have extra free time, which I think it's one of the questions, how people to cope with stress of being alone in the house or not having anything to do. But when things were a bit free, and I believe things will get better with time, it's good to find activities that will keep you physically active. Like it's good to go for hikes, it's good to go for dancing classes, it's good to learn a skill like playing guitar, it's good to do something that probably will keep your mind engaged. It's good to watch movies, but again, binge watching again too much also affects into your brain. So when you have sometimes too much of free time, that is to young people, that's how they might fall on drugs to make them excited. And I think, as Ambika said, there's so many things that can make you happy besides using drugs. And when you have an issue, then it's good to seek help early enough. So
Yeah.
that's just what I to clarify in terms of what I'd not said, the
Okay.
effects and what to do. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mercy. I realize that the mind as which the breakdown from Mercy has really been good from the beginning about substance abuse and how Ambika has come in to now delve deeper into mental awareness. I feel a lot of questions are now tied in between these two. And for Ambika now, I would want you to maybe react to Mercy at the same time. There are some comments I can read and then you can react to them. Robert Kimurgor says mental health is a serious concern at the moment. Uh, Someone else, I can just read a few comments. I think Purity says, I think as young people, we have bigger responsibility. There's someone, Calvin. This is a question to our panelists. How do you deal with a toxic relationship, especially to our youth who still want to hang on there in relation to mental wellness? Another, there is some reactions from Purity herself. Everyone can read it. Her take home is seek therapy or counseling, find healthy ways to cope with stress. Um, yeah, there's some very positive comments from Mercy and Ambika that this is as we go by, it's really informative. Yeah. Someone else says we need to destigmatize mental health. So Ambika, I know it's so much, but you can just choose what you can sufficiently respond to. I really like that we need to destigmatize mental health, because from your presentation, when you presented signs of depression or signs of anxiety, I think in Kenya, it's just known as stress. It's a big word, stress. And nowadays in our generation with the technology exposure, uh, it's now people are now coming out to talk about depression and which kind of levels of depression. So would you please just maybe delve into this?
Yeah. Thank you, Anthony, for handing me over with such a beautiful question. Yeah, why do we need to destigmatize mental health? So I would like to say, if you have to kind of tease out just physical body and mind, and then say I'm body alone. Yeah, so I care about physical health. I care if I have ulcer, or if I care if my blood pressure is high. Yeah, and I don't